through the Magellan Straits, and then they went up the Chilean and Peruvian coast, and then eventually that famous stop that they made in the Galapagos Islands. Okay, next slide. All right. I think that we should not just take as true what somebody, even with somebody with such integrity as Charles Darwin, and just believe what he says he did and why he did it and so on and so forth, what his motives are and what he thought that he had accomplished and so forth. But we can use this basically as a testable hypothesis. And this is the first sentence or two sentences of The Origin of Species, 1859. During the voyage of the Beagle, I had been deeply impressed by discovering in the Pompeian Formation great fossil animals covered with armor like that of the existing armadillos. Secondly, by the manner in which closely allied animals replace one another in proceeding southwards over the continent. And thirdly, by the South American character of most of the productions of the Galapagos archipelago, and more especially by the manner in which they differ slightly on each island of the group, none of the islands appearing to be very old geologically. Okay, so we could test that. We could turn to his notes. It's like going to the videotape of last night's baseball game, you know, and we could go to his geology notes and see what he actually did. If you read his diary, it's skimpy on science. You have to read his scientific notes, and the zoology notes have been published, and his summary zoology notes, the ornithological notes and animal notes and so forth, have been published. Well, most of them have been published. But not his geology notes, oddly enough, which is mostly about porphyry and stuff. So you have to sort of slog through a lot of, from our perspective. But there are some real gems there. So let's go to that videotape. That's actually a portion of his actual handwriting in the geology notes. I have it there to show that we actually read the actual notes. And David Cohen very, very patiently taught me how to read his handwriting. It's not as bad as it actually looks. And can you see there, to what a remote age, you can actually see that towards it's the last third of that written thing, and it transcribes this. To what a remote age does this in all probability call us back? And yet we find the shells themselves and their habits the same as exist in the present sea. This is his very first stop on the Beagle. They could not go to Tenerife. Can we go to the next slide, just because okay, thanks. That's sort of the punchline of this. They're in Santiago, in the Canary, no, in the, what's the other islands? Anyway, Canary Island group. They couldn't land at Tenerife because there was an outbreak of cholera. So the captain was very impatient to get to South America, so he hauls anchor. And Darwin was really disappointed because he wanted to see tropical vegetation for the first time in his life, and basically didn't. So they get